Hello friends, welcome to my channel. In today's session we are going to discuss about cascading drop-down list in ASP.NET Core by using Entity Framework and JQuery with Ajax calls. So this is the final output of this session. So we are going to design one form like this and we are going to bind country, state and city here. So these drop-downs are interdependent. So country is the parent for state. Based on the country selection, states will be loaded. Based on the state selection, cities will be loaded. Suppose if I select default value as select country, so we will get alert stating that we have to select the country. So until unless we are selecting proper country, it will not be displayed. Based on the country selection, states will be loaded. Based on the state selection, cities will be loaded. If there is no city with this country and state, then city is not available. Like this we are going to display the message and we are going to disable this drop down because there is no cities, so we no need to enable this drop down. Suppose if I change any other state, so here we have city, that time only we are enabling. All the validations are implemented in this example, and please watch this video till the end for better understanding. Before continuing with this session, I would request you all, please subscribe to my channel and click on bell icon for notification alerts. For this session, we are going to use Visual Studio 2022 and database will be SQL Server 2019. I am going to use it. If you have any other versions which supports for .NET Core, you can use it. That first I am going to create a new project. Here we are going to create ASP.NET Core web application with model view controller. You select the ASP.NET Core web app model view controller, which language is C#. Click on next. Here I am going to provide project name. So I am giving project name here. So I am going to store in this location, and here solution name by default, whatever the project name we provided, the same name will be there. If you want, you can change it here. Here I have .NET 7 is the latest version. I am going to select the latest version and click on create. Here we are going to configure HTTPS create. Our project has been created now. So first we have to add entity framework related packages. For that, right click on the project, go to the manage NuGet packages. So here we are going to use entity framework code first approach. For this, go to browse. So I am going to use entity framework core, install it. In previous sessions already we explained how to use entity framework with the DB first and code first approach. And I am going to use SQL Server for the database. For that we have to install entity framework core.SQL Server also. And also we need tools to use code first approach. For that I am going to install entity framework core.tools. So it's installed. Also we need bootstrap latest version. So we are going to install bootstrap also. Select the latest stable version and you can install it here. It's installed. Now we are going to create 3 models for country, state and cities. For that I am going to expand models. Right click on these models. I am going to separate it. For that I am going to create one folder called DB entities. Here I will create our classes. for country, state and city. Here we will create three classes: country, state, city. Here we will add properties for each class. Here I want ID. This will be name, that is country name. Country code. I'm going to use these properties for state and city also. Now we have to add the relation between all these three tables. Each country will be having multiple states, so we have to relate with country. Here we have to add the relation between state and country. Country. Each state will be having multiple cities. For that I am going to add property here, state. So we have added the relation between state and country and city and state. We have to add the app DbContext to communicate with our SQL Server database. For that, right click here. I am going to add new folder called data access layer. Here I am going to create DbContext class. I will name it as my app DbContext. You can give any name here. This will be inherited from DbContext. Here we have to import the namespace of Entity Framework Core. Here select the DbContext, go to Quick Actions, click on Generate Constructor for my app DbContext. So it will generate the constructor for us. Here we will add our data set, dbset. First we will add country. This will be country. Then we need state here. City. So this app DbContext will communicate to SQL Server. For that we have to add connection string. We are going to define our connection string in Appsettings.json. Here we are going to add connection string. Here we have to provide our connection string name. I'll make it as default connection. Here we have to provide server name. Then we have to provide the database. Then here we have to provide, if you are using Windows authentication, then we have to provide as integrated security. Otherwise, if you are using SQL Server authentication, then you have to use the user ID password here. So here we have to provide server name. So this is my SQL Server where I have multiple SQL instances. So this is my PC name and this will be my SQL Server instance. This is the instance I am going to use it, and I am going to use Windows authentication. Click on connect. It's connected to my database server. This is my server name, and database name I am going to provide as demo, and I am going to use Windows authentication. For that I am making as integrated security as true. We can migrate our DB entities to SQL Server. For that, go to Package Manager console. If you don't have Package Manager console here, you can go to Tools, you get package manager, you can select the package manager console from here. To migrate the entities, add migration. Here we have to provide the name of migration, so I'm giving as initial. You can give any name here. So before that, just build the application so that if any errors are there, we can fix it. So there is no error, we can go to package manager console and add the migration. So this is our migration name, enter. So here we are facing one error called unable to create an object of type myAppDbContext, because we have to, before migrating, we have to register in our program.cs. Here we have not registered. Here we have to register this. So this is our dependency injection. I'm going to add builder.services, add DbContext. Here we have to provide our DbContext name. This is our DbContext. Options. So we are going to use SQL Server here, and here we have to pass our connection string, get connection string. So here we can provide connection string name. This is our default connection, is our connection string name. You can pass it here. Now we'll go to package manager console. Again we will execute our add migration. I think this time there should not be any error. So now our migration is successfully completed. Now we have to update the migration to database. For that, update database. Now we have to fix this SSL related error, because while creating project we have selected the HTTPS. That's why this SSL error is coming. I'll tell you how to fix this SSL error. Two ways to fix this. First one is, so while creating the project, click on create a new project. So this is the first way. Here I'm going to select MVC. So I'm selecting by default ASP.NET Core Web Application Model View Controller. Click on next. So I'm giving just one project name here. Click on next. So here while creating the project, we have selected as configure for HTTPS. Whenever you are configuring HTTPS, that time that certificate will be added to your project. That is the error related to HTTPS. To avoid that error, you can uncheck this configure for HTTPS error and you can create the project. This is one way, and another way I'll tell you how to fix that. One of our subscriber also reported the same error 3 weeks ago, the same error related to the SSL. So already I suggested here how to fix. We have to add this trust server certificate to true in Appsettings.json file. Same thing we are going to do it now. Just copy this. So this is the error we are facing. Open the Appsettings.json. Here we are using Windows authentication. Along with that, we have to use the trusted server certificate true. Whenever you are using HTTPS, that time only this error will come and you have to use this trusted server certificate as true. Now we'll go to package manager console again. Now we will try to update the database. This time we will not get any SSL related error. Update the database. So there is no error now. So we can fix this SSL error in these two ways. So first one, you have to exclude the HTTPS checkbox, and second one, you have to use the server certificate to true. So anyone you can use it, whatever you are comfortable. expand the database here. So all our table has been created, so you can check the columns. This is state table, foreign key reference added to country, and city table, foreign key reference added to state. We have to add some dummy entries to these three tables for testing purpose. So I have SQL script. I'm going to open this. First I'm going to execute countries table. Then I'm going to run data for state. Finally I'm going to execute cities. We'll check the data once. Country, states, and cities. So we have all the data now. Now we'll create a controller here. Go to controllers. I'm going to create one controller here. So we are going to create empty controller. So I will name it as Cascading controller. Cascading DDL. This is my controller name. First we have to initialize our database context. It's my app DbContext. Select the context, go to pick actions, generate constructor. It will generate the constructor for us. So now we can access all our tables by using this database context. First I will create a action method to get the countries, which will return JSON result. So it will return JSON results. First we have to get the countries here. Context dot country. So we have to put the order also, order by country name we will add it. Finally we have to convert into the list. So these countries we have to assign to these JSON results. Next we have to read the state data. Here we have to pass ID, that is country ID, we will pass it here. Again it will return JSON result. Here we have to read states from our database. Here we have to check where x dot country dot ID. We have to check the country ID which is passed by user. From here we have to put the order by. Now we have to assign these states to JSON results. First we are checking the states, whatever the ID passed by the user from the drop down. So we have to filter that, then we have to apply the order by state name. Like this, we are going to create one more action method for cities. Here in this case we will get the state ID. It is going to return again JSON result. Here we have to put the order. Finally assign these cities to JSON result. That's it. From our controller side we have created 3 action methods to get the countries, states and cities. Now we have to create a view for this. I'm going to create one index view. Right click, add view, raise a view. I'm selecting empty view. We are going to design our view. Click on add. Here I am going to add title for our form. This is our title. Here I am going to create one h2 tag to display this title. I'll add one horizontal row next to title. I'll take one container. I'm adding bootstrap classes here. I will take one card. We'll give the border as primary. I'll give the header. This is going to be card header. And I will make it as bold, and for this also I will make border primary. This is a subtitle. For card we are giving the header. Then I will make it, then I will create another div for row. Inside this div I am taking form. I'll add margin bottom 2. Here I am taking one label. This will be country. Then I will take one drop down item, select list, country. Class I will assign form control. Same thing, I will duplicate it here for state and city. This will be our state. This is going to be city. So we will run the application once and we'll see the output. Here we will use our controller name. So this is our controller. So our design is perfect. Now we have to bind the data by using JQuery Ajax calls. Here we have two ways to implement Ajax calls. Inside our index.cs HTML, we can write all our jQuery scripts here, or we can create one new JavaScript file inside our root folder. From there we can link it to our index.cs HTML. So I will go with second option. I am going to create one JavaScript file here. Right click on the JS, add. So here I am going to create one new item, say JavaScript file. So I will name it as Cascading Dropdown list. So we are going to write all our jQuery functionality here. So we are going to link this document to our index.cs HTML. So it will looks nice. So here I am going to write document.ready function, document.ready. Here I am going to write, by default all the three dropdowns will be disabled. For that I am going to make it as disabled, because there will not be any data. We should not allow user to select any item. For that I am going to disable it here. So here we can disable by using attribute. Also here we have to pass true. So we are making as disabled true. So like this, state and city also we are going to disable by default. This is the ID which we are taking from here. This is country, state, city. By using these IDs we are taking that controls. Based on these ID values we are applying the attribute as disabled. Whenever our form is loaded, so by default we have to load the countries. For that I am going to create one function here, load countries. This is my function name. So if any countries are available, I am going to make it as empty first. I'll take this ID value dot empty. Here we are going to use Ajax call to read the data. Ajax. We have to pass the URL here. Our URL will be controller name. This is our controller name. Then we have to pass our action method, that is get countries. So this is our URL. If it is success, then I have to create a function for this. We will get response from here. You can make it as response or result, whatever you want. You can provide this one. This is not mandatory, like you have to add like response. Okay, so here we will get the response, otherwise we will get the error here. Here we will get error. So this error will be displayed in the alert. So if it is success, we have to validate the data. Response not equal to null. We have to check whether it's null or not. Then we have to check whether it's undefined or not. Then also we will get response. We have to check the length of the response. If it is greater than 0, then only we have to bind the data. Otherwise we have to disable the drop down items again here. If we have any countries in the database, then response.length will be greater than 0. That time we will get the data. So we have to enable our drop down items. So we have to enable drop down items here. That's why I am making as attribute as enabled So initially we disabled, now I am enabling. Then we have to append the data here. I'm going to add append default item. I'll add it here. Option select country. I'm going to add one default value to this drop down item. Option. So like that we have to add this default values to state. This should be city. So this will be select state. This I'm making as city. Then finally we have to use each to bind the data. So response, and I'm going to call function here. This will be data, and here we have to append the data by using each loop. First we have to assign the value. We will get it from data.id. Then we have to assign the name. Here we have to close the option. Option should be in single quote. So whenever we are getting success response, we have to check whether it's a null or not and undefined or not, and we have to check whether length is greater than 0. Suppose if it is greater than 0, then only we will be having more than one country, then we have to bind it, otherwise it will come to else part. So now if we don't have any data, if any one condition is failed, then it will come to else block. Here again I am going to disable all these drop down items, because if countries are not there, then we no need to enable states and cities. So that's why I am disabling again here, and also these default values I am going to change it here. So instead of showing countries, select country, I will show it as countries not available. Same thing we will use it for other two. States not available and cities also not available. If countries data is not there, then we no need to display these states and cities. By default it will be disabled here. Now this will be called from here. When document.ready function is executed, this load countries will be called. First we will check whether countries are binding properly or not. For that we have to add two scripts here. One is JQuery, which is available in the lib JQuery. So from here I am going to add jQuery.min. This is not required. And another one, cascading drop-down list, also required. Run the application now. Once countries are binding perfectly, then we can go with state and city. All countries are loading perfectly, there is no issues. So now we can implement for state and city. So also we will create one hyperlink for cascading drop-down inside our layout page. Here I am going to add one navbar item. This will be cascading drop down list, and this will be index. So this navbar item will be displayed in our layout. So now we will go to cascading drop down list. Here we have to add another two functions for loading state. Load states. In this case I no need to make it empty for country. Here I will make it as state, also city. These two drop downs I will make it as empty, because while loading the states we have to clear existing data and then we have to load the fresh data. And also I am going to disable city. So whenever states are loading, that time cities states and empty will be removed, and then we are going to disable city. When state is changed, that time only we have to validate the data. If any cities are available, then we have to enable the city drop down. Here we have to add states action method, and again here we will get the response. We are validating here. This country is not required here. Instead of country we have to enable state drop down. So this is the HTML attribute. So we are making as disabled true or false. Here once data is available, we have to make it as disabled false, then only the drop down item will be enabled. So then select state will be added, city will be added here, and here we have to pass data to state. So here we are working with state. Suppose we don't have any data in the state table, that time it will comes to else block. Then here state will be disabled, city will be disabled, and default message will be displayed as states not available and cities not available. For this we have to pass the ID here. Country ID is required. Here we are going to assign ID equal to country ID. This country ID we have to fetch from document.ready function. So whenever there is a change in the country drop down, that time we have to fetch this ID and we have to load the states. Like this we are going to create another function for load cities, and finally we will work on how to get these IDs. Load cities. So now state is not required, and this one also we can remove it, and we have to get the get cities action method from controller. This is ID, and here we will get the state ID from the drop down. So here we have to enable city drop down, and this is not required, only we are going to work with city. So now we have to get country ID and state ID to fetch the data. For that we will go to document.ready function. Here we have to check country.change. Whenever country is changed, we have to create a function here. Where country ID is this dot value. So here we will get the ID of country. If country ID is greater than 0, then only we have to call the states, load states, and we have to assign this country ID here. Suppose if user is selected default value like select country, that time we no need to hit our database. So here we can show that message to user stating that select the country. Alert select country. If user is not selected the valid country, then we have to disable these two drop downs, state and city. Also we have to assign these values. So like this we have to get for state change also. Whenever state is changed, we will get the state id here. If state id is greater than 0, then I have to call load cities. If user is not selected valid state, then we have to display select state, and this will be disabled here. Also here we can make it as empty, because whenever they have selected invalid country, that time we have to clear state and city data. We no need to display. Same thing I have to do it for city also. Now run the application. Click on this cascading drop down list. So all our countries are loaded. I am selecting one of the country here. Based on the country selection, states will be loaded here. Based on the state selection, city should be loaded. So for this state we don't have any cities, that's why it is showing city is not available. I'll select some other state, so we have the data. Now suppose I'll change this country to default one, so it will display the message as select country, so everything will be disabled. So all these states will be cleared, and by default it will be disabled. I'll select the valid country, states will be loaded here, and city will be displayed. I'll select some other one. Here again I am changing into default one, so it will say select country, and everything will be cleared and it will be disabled. So like this we can create cascading drop down list in ASP.NET Core by using Entity Framework Core and jQuery with Ajax calls. So that's it for today. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.